Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is me. Of course it's me. Who else is it going to be? Yeah, we're here and... oh, my camera's not on. There we go. Yeah, switched on the camera. It's weird. Purpley should just be black when you can't see the camera. That's it. Bizarre. Anyway, welcome in, brethren, sistren, and those, of course, who don't like to be pigeonholed. We like to welcome you just as much as we like to welcome everyone else. Sorry, I've got stuff under my desk. Just moving it to one side because, you know, I thought I could handle not being able to put my feet out here, but it turns out that I, in fact, could not do that thing. So there we go. Cool. I've now moved it. There's going to be no 23 this week. I was uncertain. I could not feel the vibe strongly enough, so I defaulted to my handy Marvel playing cards, which told me that because I didn't draw a card that was a multiple of 5, that being 5 or 10, no 23 this week. You might think that's harsh, but, you know, 23 can't be everywhere, you know. I realise that I've spent the last God knows how many months telling you that it is everywhere all the time. But I'm allowed to change my mind. In fact, not just change my mind, but completely reverse myself. Let's do the disclaimer. Let's see how fast I can do this. Or maybe I should do it really slowly. No, that'd just be irritating. All acts of discordiness portrayed herein for spiritual entertainment purposes only. No spiritual enlightenment or transcendental experience is offered or implied. Leaps of faith and logical backflips are performed by trained sophists. Do not attempt to recreate at home. Any resemblance to other religions, alive, dead, or merely untenable is entirely coincidental. Hail Eris and emmetize the eschaton and brands of the Discordian Society. All associated intellectual property rights probably also wrongs, just the way they are these days for Nord. There we go. We did that. That was good. Right. Order of service. It's the usual. It's what we expect. I am not expecting to get derailed this week, asynchronous brethren, sister, and pigeonholed, because there's no one here to disrail me. So derail me, whatever you want. Maybe they figured I wasn't coming because I was. If you are asynchronous, you won't realise that I started this service around about 5 minutes late due to the fact that I updated my OBS studio. And it broke OBS, so I had to uninstall and reinstall OBS to be here with you tonight. Right on the cusp of me going live. I just wanted to... Right, it made me update, and then when I finished updating, it went down and it wouldn't restart, and I was about 3 minutes from when I'm supposed to start. So Eris just wanted us to nudge it forward 5 minutes and didn't want us to have a 23. So these are the words of Eris. This is what we must live with. Last week we didn't really get through much because there were some wonderful Chaos Monkeys in the chat box, and they did in fact fulfill their duty as good Discordians, and they derailed the pasta. They did, and we talked about nonsense for an extended period of time. I did manage to wrest some control in time for Reflective Tarot, where we got the Magician, and of course the weekly sacrament brings the proceeding to a close in an elegant fashion. We will be doing that. I have my sacramental tokens right here. I did in fact eat a sausage in a bun tonight. Now of course that's not the idea. You're not allowed to eat a hot dog bun. However, it was a sub roll, and the scripture on sub rolls is slightly more forgiving, but it wasn't a hot dog sausage. It was like a non dog. It was sort of like, it is a hot dog, but it's not a hot dog. It's a proper link sausage. So I had a link sausage in a sub. So that's not a hot dog, but it is a hot dog. I mean, it's more of a hot dog, I guess, than the sacramental token is. But that's what I had for tea anyway. So being particularly devout on this particular Friday. A Friday in a month where we've had a plethora. And that's the only word used to describe it. A plethora of Discordian services, because we've had the season's opening service 2 days before we then had the first Friday service. In the season's opening service, we were told that after the following Friday service we would have a Saints' Day service, when we then had another service, then another service, and then this service. I mean, what was that, 7 or 8 services in Beta Rita alone? What a chaos. What a way to start off chaos, eh? 7 out of 31 days, an entire week of days in which there was a Discordian service this month, which is obviously likely scenario, or more likely than not scenario, because this 31st is on a Friday, so that's given us our most opportunity for Friday. I think that if I recall correctly, the first one was the 3rd, but obviously we have to have a season's opening service on the 1st because that's the beginning of the season of chaos. So that, yeah, it's just worked out that way that we have ended up with a bounty of services this month, and it's always like to happen that the Saints' Day will fall within the January of the year because we could have it on the 55th day of the, so that's in the next month, and then the 14th, so that's inside January, and then on the 23rd, that's within January, then on the 32nd day, which would have been of course the 1st of February, so then we get the 41st, and then the 50th. So yeah, okay, so under half of the days that you could have it on. So yeah, we were just it was just interesting. So January's been full of Discordianism, and February probably slightly less so because we've got no Saints' Day for certain. In fact, we know for a fact we're going to have 4 services. In fact, that's all we're going to have next month. So we can be slightly less pious, which is always good news to people. But now we're going on to deep thoughts, and I've revisited the deep thought from last week. Last week's deep thought, which we didn't get to talk about at all, did I mention? I got thoroughly derailed. The little thinking man there, just to give you he's thinking about this Discordian life. Why is he thinking about that? And what is this Discordian life? I'm glad you asked. Asynchronous parishioner. It is not, I mean, when you are following the Discordian path, I think that it is entirely within the reasonable realm of reasonableness to attempt to engage yourself with those online groups that follow the Discordian path right along with you. But one thing I have noticed about Discordian groups online, and this applies to Reddit and Facebook, I don't know where else I might find an actual group. There are obviously hashtags on TikTok, on Instagram, but online communities. If there is another Discordian online community that isn't Reddit or Facebook based, I am not aware of it. But here's the thing. The Reddit group is pretty much what you might expect from a Discordian Reddit group. And I wouldn't attempt to derail. The thing that's a bit weird, I don't know if it's... I don't know why it is, but probably because it drove the moderators nuts, because I can imagine it would have. But you're not actually... I don't know at what point I will be ever, if ever, I will be allowed to post upon the... Oh, that's interesting. These are the happy squirrel and the... Alright, these are the squirrels and the extra... What's that? Oh, the Four of Pentacles has somehow ended up skipping out of the deck and ending up with the two squirrels. Yeah, my tarot deck, the one that I use every week for the service. Every week, well, not for other services. We have other decks for other services. But you get these two cards, which are the happy squirrel and the sad squirrel. They're just bonus tokens that you get with the thing. But one of the regular cards has slipped in behind it. We could probably take numinousness from this. The Four of Pentacles. Let's have a look. Let's have a think. This is a bonus to our regular draw because it happened due to circumstance that this card ended up skipping out. So yeah, there it is, the Four of Pentacles. The Four of Pentacles is a card about... well, the fours are usually symbolic of small victories, minor stability, like you've just about got something working. And in the case of, obviously, Pentacles being the suit of security, emotional security, like being comfortable, the suit of comfort. What it means is you're about as uncomfortable as you can be while still being comfortable. Yeah, or the least comfortable you can be while still being comfortable. And is often hallmarked by things like economic situations where you've got enough to keep going but not enough to move forward. Stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's what that is. And it popped out. It's popped out of the deck and revealed itself to us at a random point in time. Perhaps when I'm talking about this Discordian life. And in fact, if we're going to relate it, like say that everything is connected in the universe, that in fact, this does describe the state of online Discordian communities. They're the least comfortable you can be while still being satisfied that it isn't completely dead. I wonder if there are people out there, and it would be obviously very difficult to find this out, who are following spiritual paths which are largely dead. You know, like I often have this horror that I'm the only British Discordian. I know I'm not, but all the other British Discordians that we know about are some manner of celebrity. And that's the point. I mean, what's the point of that? It's like being a bloody Scientologist. All the people that you know in the church are celebrities. There are no just average, everyday Joe Discordians other than yourself. Almost a cause for celebration in and of itself. He's the only one that's not famous. Yeah, I mean, and it didn't help me whatsoever picking up the Brenton Clutterbuck book, Chasing Eris. He goes all around America and parts of South America and stuff, talking to a bevy of everyday Discordians, describing this Discordian life, as is the title of the Deep Thought this week. He gets to Britain and he talks to two who I know about, who are celebrity Discordians. Yeah? That's this, all done. That's the whole section on Britain. I met these two people who everybody knows about and talked a bit about the KLF, who are also celebrities, also kind of Discordians. In fact, probably purer Discordians than the other two because they don't commit to it. So, you know, that's supposed to be a real indicator. If you propagate chaos, if you are living in the path of the chaos monkey, but you don't claim to be a Discordian, that makes you ultra Discordian. It's always a very paradox, you see. It's the heart of our Discordian life. I keep talking about this Discordian life, but I still haven't got... Well, I've laid out the stall, right? I've been to the online groups. I have made myself aware of what's available in the UK. I myself am doing a Discordian service from South Wales every Friday at 7 p.m. UK time. So if there were any UK Discordians, well, I might not have expected them to find me by now. I haven't been doing this a year yet. But maybe when I have done it a year, yeah, people, there might be. The point is, that's the point. It's really hard when you're doing something incredibly niche. If you're doing something incredibly niche in a large country like the United States, yeah, then you've got a wider net to throw. If you communicate at US times with people in the United States, then you might throw a rock and hit someone who is also in your niche. But when you live in a country like the United Kingdom, it doesn't matter that there are other people following the Discordian path. All it takes is for them to have a regular engagement on Friday, because we're not exactly sticklers for this kind of service-based activity. All it takes is for them to be out on every Friday night. You know, at the moment, being in a place of the night where they've got something to do on Friday night. And they're not really thinking to look on YouTube. How many years did it take me? It took me when I became a serious Discordian, it never occurred to me to search for Discordian stuff on YouTube till I'd been thinking about it and reading literature and blogging about it for about 2.5 years. Just didn't occur to me to think, oh, you know what, I could go and find. And when I did, there was nothing there. I mean, there was like a couple of items that were not old Robert Anton Wilson interviews. There's not a wealth. I'm making up. I have far exceeded the amount of what I imagine is easily accessible Discordian content on YouTube. And I don't even know if somebody searches Discordianism, do my services come up? I don't know. I have no idea, because apart from anything else, Google screwed. I mean, I suppose I have to put it in incognito mode. Hey man, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it right now. Not for you to see. I've got a second set of monitors here. I'm about to open an incognito tab because I can't be bothered. How would I? What? Mate. Let's see. I hope it doesn't interfere with me. New incognito window. Alright, it's come up there. Okay, so we're in an incognito window. YouTube. Yeah, alright. No, I don't want to sign in. That's exactly why I've come here like this. Okay, accept all. There we go. So it should just be random YouTube stuff. Oh, let's put the game view on. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so here we go. Try searching to get started. Thank you, YouTube. I will. There you go. People do search for it. So there's a documentary. Someone talking about Jung. Okay. Another documentary. Hertz, the car rental firm. Obviously, they're deeply involved in Discordianism. Okay. This content wasn't here when I last looked, but that was the last time I looked on YouTube, did an actual search, was before the pandemic. That's the words I was struggling for the last time I searched YouTube for Discordian content. So here's one. That's good. 4 years ago. That's 2021. Now I want to. Can I just go add to watch? Add to queue? No, I just wanted to bookmark it. No, I don't want to watch the flipping video. Good grief! There are 12 chapters in this video. How do we just put it in? Watch later. Oh, for God's sake, YouTube! You're a mess. You're drunk. For God's sake, how difficult is it? Someone sees a video in a minute, but they can't watch it right now. But you can't bookmark it without. Right, anyway, another documentary and an invitation that I might want to find. Word of the day: Discordianism. Okay, fine, whatever. That's a talk that's been recorded. And that's a playlist that's been recorded. That's the thing about right. So the only woman who's on it, right? So they. Okay, so we're going to put this in. We're going to put it in. How do I do this? Where do I go to save? There we go. Yes. Oh, I've got to sign in. I've done this specifically because I didn't want my own stuff coming up in there. Oh, I'll just have to remember. Maybe if I put it in my normal. Anyway, we'll have to have a look into that later. But anyway, the point is, right, there we go. We got a first page of results there of Discordianism. And there was one person that wasn't a documentary or a recording of a talk. And I think that's one of the things. I think that people are intrigued by Discordianism. But I do think that many philosophical types and stuff have a real problem with it's a religion that's a joke and a joke that's a religion. Yeah? Like, how do we land on that? How do we land on that? This service is a Discordian service, but it's also a mockery of religious services and the very idea of a Discordian service. That's what it is. But it can be both things at the same time. And the first and most difficult mindfuck to overcome when you become Discordian is reconciling the fact that the thing you do is the thing you do, but it's also a joke about the thing you do and a mockery of it. But that doesn't take away, neither side takes away from the other. Both are legitimately true. Hence the answer to the question, is Discordianism a religion or a joke? And the answer being yes. If you can't mash those two things together in your head, you will find it very difficult to be, a real Discordian. And actually, that's part of this Discordian life issue, is that most of the people online who are in Discordian groups online are fine with the joke. But then there are some people who are really fine with philosophy and spiritualism. In fact, that's exactly the problem. You go into these groups and people generally can't embody the joke side of it and the non-joke side of it, the religious, the spiritual side of it. They can't mash the two together at once. They find it impossible. And then the other thing that flipping happens, which is a blight upon these groups, is people talking about left and right wing politics, despite the fact that at the time that Discordianism was made and expanded and accepted Robert Anton Wilson into its bosom, it's been made quite plain, both the right and the left. Yeah, you have the right wing. Pretend I have a hand puppet here. Right wing, I could get one, but I think a hand alone will suffice at this time. You have the right wing and the left wing, and look, there's the right and the left, the wrists and the arms, and then they go back into the same organism. Yeah, that's how left and right hand works. Yeah, and in fact, it is subconscious. It's weird, now that I come to think about it, this idea that left and right are the same thing, just, one hand and the other hand of the same organism. Yeah. We've subconsciously, like the culture, our society has said, we've got the left and the right. It's like, well, what has a left and a right? Well, a thing. There's a left and a right of anything. Do you know what I mean? There's a phone, right? It has my phone. A phone has a right side and a left side. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That has a right and a left. There are very few things that just have a right or just have a left. In fact, one might argue that there are no things that don't have a right side and a left side. That's how space works. Yeah, unless you're going to get non-Euclidean. And if you're suggesting that the governments of the world are non-Euclidean, yeah, it sounds legit, to be honest. But yeah, anyway, the point is that's not what we're talk about. The point is that we subconsciously, as human beings, as civilizations, have recognized subconsciously that the left and the right in politics are the same thing. They're part of the same thing. They're just different faces of the same entity. But yet people get all wound up, the right the right jeers at the left jeers at the right. That's like my hands having a fucking boxing match. They're the same thing, and yet Discordian groups online are filled to the brim with people who are either very much on the left or very much on the right. And it's like, well, okay, fine, whatevs, but they're the same thing. And that is part of what Discordianism and the philosophy of chaos is supposed to liberate you from, the idea that politics is anything other than a bloody circus. And yet it seems not to. It's the fact it's a tertiary, although not unpleasant to that organism, fact that outsiders can get on your bandwagon and start attacking people who are on the other side. They're the same side. It's the same thing. It's just you're either on the left hand or you're on the right hand. But it's the same thing. Yeah? So why? Why are you coming into a thing saying, And then you should be able to just say, this chump who's in the big boy seat, he's an idiot. You should just be able to say that, because that's all it is. It's you talking about another human being who's an idiot. The whole circus is just there to distract you. And from what? Some other political thing, some other political agenda? No, because every political agenda is part of that same circus. They're there to distract you from your life. They're there to distract you from having a thought. They're there to put a grey face thought matrix into your reality tunnel so that you don't think outside of that matrix. That's what the prison is made of. Okay, so there we go. Right, so that's. And this is all the way. This is a blight, a grey face blight in every Discordian group online. Every last one. Every last one. To the extent that it's almost like, well, are there any real Discordians in the Discordian groups online? I guess this is the point. This Discordian life is hard. It's hard. When you say, the people are quite willing to come in and do the whole Discordian stick apart. And it's not really true. If you had two actual Discordians, they would be kindred. It's part of the connective tissue. It's very easy, I would say, for a true Discordian to meld their reality tunnel together with another. This is the thing. I'm now into this bloody dichotomy thing of true Discordian. And the point is, we can't. Right, okay. So we've made our own doublethink in the Discordian path. Yeah? Because you can't accuse someone of not being a true Discordian. If you claim to be a Discordian, you are a Discordian. Okay? It's probably a problem that we need a solution like the paradox of tolerance. Paradox of tolerance being we must be tolerant of everything except intolerance. We should be really intolerant of intolerance, but everything else we should tolerate. Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe how to be tolerant. Yeah, it's perfect. It's absolutely that there isn't anything clearer. And we need that in Discordianism to say, well, because the point is that because you're not allowed to just denounce someone, or because the Katma isn't prohibitive, just say, hey, come on in, be Discordian, woo. You end up with this. This is what you end up with online. Just a bunch of people arguing about left hand and right hand. That's all it is. I sometimes look at the stream of my, membership of these things, and it's just people posting, the right is bad, the left is stupid. The right is bad, the left is stupid. That's all you get. Where's the Discordianism? But that's the other big problem, right? Is that to actually have Discordian discussion is quite hard. Because all the things that a regular religion would talk about, technically they're all concerns of Discordian as well. Because Discordianism, like any other religion, is a way that you live your life. But you have to sort of make your own framework of ethics and all of that out of the very limited tools that are given to you. And I think that people are generally, there's so much apocrypha. The Principia is the foundational stone. Yeah. The writings of Robert Anton Wilson are kind of accepted, but even he's like, well, this isn't, the straight up. It's just some thoughts that you might want to take along. Yeah. But I think that we've seen the messes that other religions can get themselves into by being too wordy and too prescriptive, because the same message, often religious texts give the same message repeatedly in slightly different ways, and bad actors can kind of take the way that fits their scenario. And then of course there's the whole thing where people get into blinking dogma arguments. They post huge parts of the dogma in contradiction of each other, and it's just an argument using bits of a book written usually thousands of years ago, or at least centuries ago, to support a position on some position. It's really hard. And so these are obviously the problems that we want to resolve. I have an ethical dilemma. I don't know how to live my life. I'm feeling spiritually lost. Yeah. And you're not going to go to a meme posting group where everybody's it's a bunch of monkeys throwing doo-doo at one another. You're not going to go there. You are, of course, welcome to introduce serious spiritual concerns to the service. We are, as it goes, all friends here. It's supposed to be. I had a friend, a very dear friend, who I've never actually met in person, but he is doing good work in the space of humanitarian goodness. And he used to run a what he liked to call a safe space. And then it was on Twitch. And then he got to a point where there were so many people in his safe space that he could there were no longer, and it was on a Twitch stream. And so he changed its name to the Brave Space, because he could no longer guarantee safety, because the people in the chat could introduce an element of psychological risk to each other. Humanity, human beings, eh? Wonderful. But yeah, he could continue to do it for a while. He called it the Brave Space. I think he probably found that, because the rest of the time that he wasn't doing that, he did music. And I think he found that the people had all rocked up for music. And he so loves music, the music that he does, that he would do music during the Brave Space session. But I think he found that people would flake out because he would push forward the sort of mental health, let's be together in this Brave Space agenda. And people would be like, but I want music. I don't want you to prioritize that. And there are also Twitch streamers who are all about the mental health. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've never found one who's as good at it as Mr. Bravespace. It's Beat Cleaver. I don't know why I'm hiding his name. I don't know why that would be. He's even been in here. He came in the second service to see what it was about, and then was like, "This is just nonsense," and then just wandered off. Which is probably fair enough, because the second service, if I'll be completely honest, was not one of the strongest, because it's taken a while to get the flow going. You know, this is, you know, it's still evolving. There's still got to be a shape to it, and we haven't quite got there yet. But yeah, there we go. Beat Cleaver used to do that, and he, as far as I don't know, he might still, because I don't have a lot of time, because he tends to stream during times that I'm at work, and I do enjoy his music as well. And the thing about it is, his music is very good vibes, yeah. But the point is that the people, you see, the people don't talk during the music quite as much. And if you are one of the people who's been around for a long time. You remember a time when there used to be a good buzz and conversation going off, but now it's just a lot of people spamming emotes and telling him it's banging, which has mass appeal. I'm not going to argue that it doesn't. It does. But it's not very easy to shoehorn in your mental health agenda. And I think he was like, do I really have a mental health agenda? You know, it's fair play. And to be fair, the musical experience and the unifying power of his music is enough that he's the only person on here I currently subscribe to. I used to subscribe to another guy, had the same. I think that's what it is. I subscribe to streamers who have a unifying power of bringing people together in a vibration or a way that is healthy. And Beat still does it, and so I subscribe to him. Another guy who did it a lot during the pandemic, but then he had to go back to work, and now he does work, and he still does it. And to be fair, I probably still would subscribe. He is actually a victim of his own success, because he is cartoon stuff where you can press buttons and make like this is the Spudley, last known as the Spud TV, or I don't know what he goes by now, but he refers to himself as Spud, and he had like overlays that made you able to, you could drop like a cartoon anvil on his head, or surprise him with a screaming goat, or a goat that shot lasers, or there were a number of these animations that he'd painstakingly programmed in, that when you spent channel points it would make some kind of crazy effect happen. And he studiously reacted to every anvil, to every boxing glove in the face, to every surprise screaming goat. He was just dedicated to that idea of the interactive entertainment experience, including that. And my son, from a very young age, when he caught the Spud streaming, absolutely loved it. To be fair, he absolutely loved punching him in the face and dropping anvils on his head. But he knew it was a joke. He knew we weren't really being violent to him. And he thought it was just wonderful that there was this dancing clown upon the screen who would react to that. And he became incredibly addicted. And so we can't put it on, because if Spud streams for 5 hours, our son will watch for 5 hours and will absolutely freak out if we try and say, look, we've watched, we can say goodbye, we can leave. Which is absolutely, like, Spud doesn't mind if you come in, stay for a bit and then go out. Most streamers don't. In fact, well, most streamers don't. All the streamers I follow, they don't. And I don't. But anyway, he doesn't mind. I think it's something as a streamer you have to get used to, is that people may just drop in for 20 minutes. Absolutely fine. Yeah. But my son just wouldn't. He said, I have to stay here until Spud cuts us off. And it was just incredibly disruptive. So he had to stop watching. So yeah, but that's called a victim of your own success, when you've got a fan so dedicated that the minute they know you are there, they will stay till the bitter end and raid out with you 100% of the time. And it also was a good illustration to me of how much a stream can ruin someone's, not ruin someone's life, but monopolize someone's time if you're that into the streaming content, And I've still got people that I watch, and that I do like streamers where it's worth interacting with them, and I did it anyway. We've got onto this whole tangent about streaming, but my point, if we could bring it back to this Discordian life, and really what it is that I am trying to create here via Twitch and YouTube. What I did find is if you put in Discordianism and you're not signed in, the algorithm won't suggest one of my services. It just won't. Which is weird, right? I don't know, maybe once the weight of time has built up, once there are enough services. Because remember, on a weekly, there's only 52 services in a year. We ain't got there yet. And then we add in, right? What are we adding in? Well, there's 52, so 5 more for the service, and then 5 more again for the Saints Days. So in a Discordian year, you would have 62 services overall. Unless there was some reason to have yet another service. Because you get 5 season starts and 5 Saints Days. Plus the Friday service. And if at any point the Saints Day and the Friday, or the season begins on a Friday, you would combine them all. So yeah, so I haven't even done 62 services yet. So, people say it takes a while before YouTube takes over. But there we go. I just got to wait and see who comes by. But I thought that maybe it did cross my mind, should I start my own Discordian Facebook group, probably called This Discordian Life, in which I have a bunch of rules about, look, there are lots of places you could go to do the other Discordian thing that we're talking about. This right here is going to be very strict about being about Discord. But then I thought, kind of what's the point? Because some of the dour, grey-faced kind of philosophy bugs of Discordianism, they prescribe spiritual practice. They prescribe. I don't know. I just think I find it hard. Maybe I should. I mean, now that I come to air it here in the service, maybe I should attempt it. Because it's a place where I don't like to get in fights in other people's Discordian groups about, like, well, this is obviously a rubbish post and this is a rubbish post and you've made several mistakes here. And, if I had my own, at least when people come in and do that stuff, I can argue with them with impunity. But that's the point. I already do this. I give as much of my life as I can to the Discordian message. Do I want to give more? The answer is no. There are video games and movies and my family and pets and work and family, extended family, going out for dinner and going to the cinema. There's a lot of life, and I give as much as I can. So I think that's this Discordian life. You devote a portion of it to Discordianism, and then the rest of it you should actually live your life, which is true for any religion. You do the religion, and then you go and live your life. Well, Kandar's here. I think we've way overstretched the Kandar point here, and there's nobody here to ask me a question. Except if you're asynchronous, in which case, of course, you are allowed to leave me comments in the doobly-doo. You are allowed to do that. And I will address them in the following service. So, I mean, I've said some things tonight. I don't think they should be controversial. But people get angry about all sorts of stuff, don't they? Oh, yeah, Faces of Eris. Yeah, cool. We are actually doing this at the moment. And I've put... I have remembered to update the flavour text. And the flavour text this week is Fnord, because at one point when I was doing this, I was like, I should really have come back and redone it. Or maybe I shouldn't, because this week the face of Eris is... boom! Uno reverse! And what am I talking about when I say Uno reverse? Well, it's a meme at the moment. A meme that has exploded into real life. The concept of Uno reverse, the reverse card from Uno, which changes the direction of play, has become a way in life of saying back on you. It's essentially a sort of modern version of I know you are, but what am I? Like, or whatever it is. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, what you say is what you are. You know, it's that. It's been boiled down. You say something to someone, they don't like it, they just go, Uno reverse, and that's it. Yeah, cool. So yeah, it's a way of tossing it back over the fence. You don't want to deal with something someone said to you, Uno reverse, and you don't have to deal with it anymore because you've given it back to them. So they're taking their vibe, throwing it straight back at them. So yeah, chaos from Sloth. Is it chaos? I don't know. I mean, I think all you're really doing is saying, I don't accept your communication. Return to sender. Yeah, that's all you're saying. That's all you're saying. And people have been doing that since forever. Is it chaotic behaviour? Can it ever be truly chaotic if you're sealing yourself up in a hermetically sealed egg of Uno reverse and refusing to deal with anything that you find mildly upsetting? It's a question. Don't care, won't care. Yeah, that's the point. That's how it is. I think that's one of the things, you know. And I do think that Discordianism... If you go to certain people in other religions and accuse them of not really giving a toss and not actually exemplifying the values of the religion that they claim to be following, all they've got is, well, you're not being very helpful now. Oh, what kind of what are we doing? It isn't even Uno reverse. They're just blankly refusing to acknowledge it in a crass and unamusing way. But yeah, certainly the don't care, won't care attitude seems to find a home in Discordianism. But should it? Because I think it's far more chaotic and Discordian to engage with things we find unpleasant and attempt to process them than it is to just Uno reverse them. Yeah, here we go. It's just a way of making anything you choose somebody else's problem. Now, I'm not saying that should never happen. Do you know what? You know, yeah, fine. That is fine. It's a fine strategy from time to time is to just say, no, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not having it. I'm not doing it. But there should always be a place where you aren't allowed to Uno reverse. That's my opinion. And there's no 6 points. Uno reverse on you. Yeah, Uno reverse it back to you. Are you gonna? Do you use Uno reverse or a similar tactic? Do you use it a lot? Do you deal with your own stuff and just your own stuff? And how could you deal with stuff brought in from others? How do you evaluate it? How do you make something of it? How do you grow from that input? Oh. It's been very card heavy, this service. We had the extra tarot card. We've had the Uno reverse card. And now, of course, it's time for the main event. Reflective Tarot. As usual, shuffled 5 times, although without the 4 of coins, Pentacles, being in the deck at the time. And then cut to raise to the top the very card that we are looking at this week. Last week we had the Magician, prompting you to take action because you have the power, like He-Man of old in the 80s. He has the power. Yeah, Magician has the power. Wow, what a great Magician's card for the Masters of the Universe Tarot. Prince Adam, sword aloft, turning into He-Man. That's the Magician moment right there where you have the power. But this is what we're looking at this week. I'd be flabbergasted if it was a loud secret. It's going to be a sneaky one. That's my prediction. And the point is that as we've got to remind ourselves, this is a reflective process. So it has nothing to do with the future. So my prediction is worth nothing. So what have we got? Oh, we did in fact get the 6 of Pentacles, which is interesting because that's a very obscure card that I don't see very often. So where we go, we got the guy with the scales there and 6 coins in the sky. Essentially, this is a sort of right. Okay, so as we discussed earlier, Pentacles are the suit of material comfort, right? Well, not material comfort, emotional comfort, spiritual comfort, just any kind of comfort you think about. That is what Pentacles are about. Yeah. And the 6 here with the trader in the marketplace and people begging for some of their things and some coins fall into the hand there. It is about that system. It's a systemic card. Whereas the 4 is your basic unit of stability in any concept. The 6 is a sort of systematized version of that. The 5 that comes just before it always asks us to consider the workings of something adversely working against the energy. Like how do we make use of a scarcity in that area, blah, 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 blah. And the 6 comes right back and says, there's, in civilization, there's a level. Yeah. There's a level of whatever this energy is. And think about the way that works. Yeah. Think about haves and have-nots, but not on a big scale, not in like wealth inequality services, but just sometimes you have, sometimes you don't have. Sometimes you're comfortable, sometimes you're not comfortable. And how there's a whole mechanism, a larger world that mediates the flow, that makes cash flow. That concept in business and life of cash flow. Sometimes you have cash, sometimes you don't have cash, and it often goes on very tight monthly cycles, yeah, or quarterly in the case of a business, yeah. The cash comes in, the cash goes out, yeah. And what this card is saying is consider that process. Are you under the thumb of that process at the moment? Are you managing that process? What part do you play in the process? So, yeah, that's where we're at. That's what we're asked to think about this very week. And I will leave that with you. All part of the process, all part of the machine. We have come to that point. The process of Discordianism. Strawberry flavoured, candy, gas, liquid. You know the drill. Pull up the thing, the moment where your sense, and I think it is a sense, an olfactory sense, taste or smell, is how you're going to make contact with the goddess in the sacrament. And we, of course, here at the SWDP, we like strawberry flavoured things, we like candy flavoured things, we like liquids, we like gases. We don't care as long as you're experiencing that very visceral moment of numinous communication where we're all brought together. And we of course begin that moment with the traditional incantation, I could not find a hot dog, not even with a bun, so I ate this candy noodle or other food of your choice, because devotion comes with fun. Very nice. A moment of fellowship there with the goddess every week, Friday nights. Or indeed, as I've explained, asynchronous friend, if you're unfamiliar with the concept, for the duration of the service, this right here is very much Friday. Just so that you can enjoy your sacrament and go along your spiritual path in the correct manner. So you could be watching it a Tuesday, you could be watching it on a Sunday, you could be watching it whenever. It's Friday while you're in here with us. It's Friday. Well, I didn't get derailed this week, which is fine. Who needs to worry about that? I don't worry about not getting derailed. If the service runs, so much the better for that. But yeah, I mean, you know, disruption doesn't have to come live. Obviously, live disruption is the purest disruption. That's definitely the case. But disruption that comes in the comments to my YouTube videos, that's also disruption. So if you are watching this and you fancy yourself a Discordian parishioner, then please tell me what ails you, brother or sister or pigeonholed. Tell me what's making your little Discordian heart hurt at the moment, and we shall deal with it next week in the service. That is kind of the point. We are supposed to be living this Discordian life together, and the part of life where we just kick back and paste a few memes into Facebook groups is a very small part of the human experience, and therefore is a very small part of the Discordian experience. And here in the Discordian service, we want to chat about literally everything else. And I will leave you with that until next time. But thank you for watching tonight.